Okay, let's jump right into this. Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're unpacking a wild scenario. We're talking about a $500,000 wilderness survival challenge that literally transformed into a masterclass in game theory. We're looking at a grueling battle of attrition. 5 men, 5 women, dropped completely off the grid. But here's the thing, this wasn't just about who could rub 2 sticks together to start a fire. It was a high-stakes psychological war that proved, beyond a shadow of a doubt, why careful calculation will almost always crush raw physical endurance.
Right from the jump, you see this massive, glaring philosophical divide between the two camps. I mean, it's night and day. You've got the men's camp, right? Heavily relying on brute force, hunting, and just toughing it out. They figured their natural strength was going to carry them to the finish line. But on the flip side, the women took a completely different angle. They immediately started applying math and game theory to the whole survival setup. They weren't just thinking, how do we survive tonight? No, they were calculating how to survive the entire month. And you've got to remember the context we're dealing with here. $500,000 is on the line. The stakes are sky high, which makes every single tiny decision absolutely critical. But here's the kicker. There was this one brilliantly devious rule injected into the game. If a player quit, their team could still win the entire pot, as long as just one member of their team outlasted the other side. That single rule, it flipped the whole thing from a pure survival test into this crazy, complex mathematical puzzle.
So, to see exactly how this played out, we're going to track the tactical turning points over a grueling 2-month period. We'll hit the archery challenge on day 10, that massive tent sacrifice on day 33, the Feastables twist on day 57, and finally, the ultimate veto on day 60.
Section 1. The Math of Starvation.
Now, while the men were leaning hard on their egos and raw strength, the women were already crunching the numbers. We literally get this quote straight from the men's camp. Boys are lions, girls are mice. I mean, the confidence was off the charts. Because of that, they didn't even bother rationing their food. 5 guys meant 5 mouths eating full portions, completely ignoring the long game. The women, though, they instantly spotted the fatal flaw. 5 people are going to drain a limited food supply incredibly fast.
Look at how brilliant their game theory actually was. It all comes down to the math. By strategically sacrificing Hana early on, the women instantly slashed their daily resource drain, while the guys were still burning through theirs. And to be clear, Hana's exit was not a sign of weakness. Actually, scratch that. It was the exact opposite. It was a highly calculated, voluntary elimination just to stretch the rations for the remaining 4 women. They were optimizing. The men, they were basically speed running toward starvation.
Well, the consequences of the men ignoring strategy hit them like a freight train. Their brute force approach just completely shattered under the harsh elements and physical tasks. Take that brutal day 10 archery challenge, for example. It absolutely torched their calorie reserves. Because they didn't ration and because they hadn't built a shelter that could actually survive severe storms, we watched a cascading total collapse. By day 13, Cam hit a mental breaking point from pure sleep deprivation. Then Sammy taps out, literally leaving his clothes behind for the other guys. Soon after, Josh gives up. The men weren't dropping as part of some master plan. Their bodies and minds just broke.
Section 2. Strategic Sacrifice Wins Rewards.
Let me pose this to you. Imagine you're out there. On day 33, both sides faced a really brutal choice. The team captain had to voluntarily leave the game so their camp could get a massive, bug-proof, completely waterproof tent. And you know, in a survival situation where awful weather has already knocked out multiple players, a good shelter is literally everything.
This is where the women pull out that altruistic elimination tactic again. Julia willingly and warmly, I might add, gave up her spot just to secure that tent for Phaedra. Julia knew that keeping Phaedra dry was the absolute best move to secure that $500,000 for the team. But TJ chose self-preservation. He flat out refused to leave. He denied his teammate Patrick, and himself by the way, any kind of decent shelter. And man, it was a choice he instantly regretted after he went over and secretly spied on the women's camp, only to see Phaedra chilling in a massive, bone-dry tent.
Section 3. Mind Games and Bears.
You know, the absolute sneakiest rule of this entire challenge was the information gap. The players had no idea who was left on the other side. This completely weaponized the men's paranoia because they never knew they were being outplayed by a steadily shrinking women's team. When TJ went spying, he realized he was only up against one woman, Phaedra. But instead of giving him a confidence boost, knowing she was dry and comfortable while he was freezing just made his impending doom feel so much heavier.
And this paranoia peaked in literally the most terrifying way possible.
A bear actually wandered directly behind the men's flimsy shelter in the middle of the night. That dangerously close encounter completely shattered whatever nerve Patrick had left. He tapped out right then and there. And that meant TJ was totally isolated, facing the rest of this grueling challenge alone in the wilderness. It was officially a one-on-one showdown, TJ versus Phaedra.
Section 4, the Day 60 Checkmate. We've reached the deep end now, and this is where a masterclass in long-term strategy clashes head-on with short-term hoarding. So around Day 50, both players get these Feastables chocolate bars. But there's a huge twist. A hidden message inside one of the wrappers offered 3 extra days of food to whoever claimed it first. Well, because TJ was starving, he obsessively hoarded his rations. He refused to even unwrap his chocolate for days. Phaedra, on the other hand, tore hers open immediately, found the message, and locked down that massive food supply a full 4 days before TJ even looked at his bar. His instinct to hoard actually cost him the most valuable resource in the entire game.
Okay, so fast forward to day 60. TJ is completely 100% out of food. In a final brutal twist, they face a blind negotiation. They can request any luxury item, but here's the catch. They only get it if their opponent approves it. Phaedra is sitting comfortably on her food pile, so she requests a simple art kit. TJ, absolutely desperate and starving, swings for the fences. He asks for a 7-day private chef serving 2 meals a day, which is honestly a wild and kind of hilarious ask in the middle of a starvation challenge.
But Phaedra knew TJ's rations were entirely gone, so she executes this perfect, ruthless checkmate. She approves his request for the art kit, but when she's asked to approve his private chef, she just calmly says, "I have to say no." Just like that, by denying his desperate plea, she entirely sealed his fate.
The psychological devastation of that single, calculated no was the final nail in the coffin. TJ's morale was utterly crushed. His food rations were at absolute zero. And having that hope of a private chef dangled and then ripped away, the sheer weight of that veto forced him to tap out. He literally had no moves left on the board.
And with that one move, the women secured the ultimate victory. Thanks to their brilliant teamwork, their day 1 resource math, and those incredibly strategic self-sacrifices, all 5 women walked away with an equal $100,000 cut of the prize money. They proved, without a doubt, that working mathematically as a collective is infinitely stronger than just banking on individual brute force.
Because, as this incredible explainer shows us, in a true war of attrition, strategy is always going to starve out raw physical strength. So if you ever find yourself in a zero-sum game, ask yourself, are you just out there flexing your muscles, or are you actually doing the math to win?